So when I do public appearances, I get very anxious. I had an anxiety attack. Pretty much I can't post a picture of myself on Twitter without a bunch of people telling me how ugly I am. I'm hesitant to share a lot of myself with the world.
Rachel Zegler, thanks for coming on my show. I sold out years ago and I'm a coward. So you recently starred in the movie Snow White. Tell me, what was it like to play Snow Latina? First of all, Steven, it was weird. But I did enjoy reimagining the character as a woke Colombian woman who looks like a fish.
That's what happens when you're a bitch, is that nobody likes you. I know it sounds crazy, but that's those are the consequences of your actions. That's life.
Hollywood has always had one rule: build them up, tear them down. Rachel Zegler didn't just rise, she rocketed. Handpicked by Steven Spielberg himself, celebrated as the face of a new generation. A fresh face for an industry desperate for reinvention. But in Hollywood, the higher you rise, the harder you fall. And Rachel's fall wasn't just hard, it was brutal. It started not with a scandal or an arrest, but with a handful of words. Words that, in any other world, would have been shrugged off.
Thing is, the internet, when the internet decides that they hate somebody, they hate them. They hate them, and that's it. And I feel like, especially with people like this that have like these types of viewpoints, I don't see her coming back from this at all. I think she is totally cooked with this.
But in Hollywood, words can cost you everything. When Disney announced Rachel as the new Snow White, it was a statement. A Latina actress playing a character historically defined by her skin as white as snow. A bold, progressive move, or at least it was supposed to be. But then Rachel opened her mouth. In interview after interview, she didn't just promote the film, she dismantled the legacy. She called the original cartoon weird. She mocked the prince as a stalker. She dismissed the timeless love story, calling it outdated. It wasn't empowerment, it was disdain. Audiences recoiled. What Rachel thought was modern and fresh came across as smug, arrogant, dismissive of the very nostalgia Disney was banking on. TikTok lit up with criticism. YouTube commentators had a field day. Memes exploded. Rachel Zegler became less new face of Disney and more face of Hollywood's tone-deaf arrogance. And Disney, they stayed silent.
We covered woke Snow White, no longer white, snow taupe, snow beige, snow swarthy, snow's not swarthy. Some kind of sediment or sand that is no longer blanc. This young woman just explained the far more egregious changes to the story than the casting of this out-of-place actress.
You said you were bringing a modern edge to it on stage. What do you mean by that?
I just mean that it's no longer 1937, and we absolutely wrote a Snow White that is
not going to be saved by the prince.
She's not going to be saved by the prince, and she's not going to be dreaming about true love. She's dreaming about becoming the leader she knows she can be.
This is the central feature of the movie, is that it's a movie about love, and that she is reawoken by love. They're taking the love out of it. No, it's not about Prince Charming and love anymore. It's about what a girl boss she is, because that's what little girls dream of. They dream of being a girl boss.
In Hollywood, silence isn't neutrality, it's a death sentence. The backlash grew. Not My Snow White trended worldwide. Clips of Rachel's interviews were remixed, ridiculed, reshared millions of times. The internet didn't just dislike her, it hated her. Late-night hosts turned her into a punchline. Reddit threads tore her apart. And through it all, Rachel stayed loud, confident, unbothered, until she wasn't. Quietly, without fanfare, Disney pulled the Snow White remake from its release schedule. No press release, no spin, just gone, as if it never existed. Rachel was left to face the consequences alone. At a press event meant to hype up the movie, everything crumbled. Minutes before she was supposed to step onto the stage, a Disney executive called her dressing room. The message was cold and final. It's been pulled. No further announcements.
So early on, Snow White herself, Rachel Zegler, was riddled with controversy. Starting with the fact that she essentially hated Snow White. She called the original story dated and weird and said that this was going to be some sort of modern take. I guess it was going to be like a feminist, like rah-rah, she doesn't need the prince sort of take on Snow White. But I'll just let Rachel describe what she thought of Snow White for you herself.
I was scared of the original cartoon. I think I watched it once and then I never picked it up again. Like, I'm being so serious. The original cartoon came out in 1937, and very evidently so. There's a big focus on her love story with a guy who literally stalks her.
Yeah.
Weird.
Super weird.
So we didn't do that this time.
Rachel broke. Insiders described the scene as pure chaos. Rachel collapsed backstage, sobbing uncontrollably, muttering, "They pulled it! They pulled it!" Security cleared the hallway. Staff scrambled. One witness said she curled up in a corner, shaking, hyperventilating, clutching her chest. She never made it on stage. She never spoke publicly about it. She simply disappeared. But that wasn't the end. It was only the beginning. The fallout was fast and merciless. Her agent severed ties. Her manager dropped her. Even her publicist, whose entire career revolves around saving damaged stars, reportedly refused to take her calls. In an industry built on connections, Rachel suddenly had none. And Hollywood doesn't wait for anyone.
Snow White now has a trailer. It's been playing before the Wicked movie. If you've gotten the chance to see it, we're going to react to some of it.
You'll be safe from all of us. We're gonna need your help. Find Snow White.
Can you feel the girl bossification of Snow White? I think we got like 2 seconds of the prince in this trailer, so who knows? Rachel Zegler said in her original sort of PR touring that she was doing on the subject of this film that the prince might be cut totally because he's not even important and he's a stalker anyways. Of course, there's the obvious question, like how are they gonna figure out the kiss and the meeting of the prince and the apparent stalking that he does in the initial film, because a lot of the leftist posturing surrounding Snow White initially was over that non-consensual kiss that exists at the end. How they're gonna sum that up and fix it, I have no idea.
Within days, casting directors started floating new names for the Snow White reboot. Jenna Ortega, Isabella Merced, Ali Cravalho, even Selena Gomez. Safer options, less baggage. Rachel's name vanished from the conversation. Meanwhile, the chaos spilled over into her other projects. The much-anticipated Evita revival, where Rachel was cast as the lead, descended into dysfunction. Reports surfaced of explosive fights during rehearsals. Cast members allegedly threatened to quit. Lawsuits loomed. Insiders whispered about Rachel's diva behavior, her unmanageable attitude. Sponsorships dried up. Brands that once lined up to work with her quietly erased her from campaigns. Merch with her face vanished from Disney stores and websites.
So here are 5 reasons why everyone seems to hate Rachel Zegler. Because she was seen as unbecoming for getting the leading role in Snow White, only to often voice how much she hates the original. Second, people said she came across as arrogant when she was asked on the red carpet for Shazam, a Marvel film, why she wanted to be a part of the Marvel universe so bad. She just needed a job.
What made you want to step into this world of DC heroes? I needed a job.
Third, people say she seems very self-serving with this cropped, very viral video.
I'm gonna stand there 18 hours in a dress of an iconic Disney princess. I deserve to be paid for every hour that it is streamed on.
I've seen people criticize her for starring alongside Ansel Elgort in West Side Story and seemingly standing by him during all the absolutely awful allegations that were going on and not condemning that behavior. Is it just misogyny? Some people say that Hollywood has just continued its tradition of hating on a new young actress. She has a whole hating fan base similar to the Hatha hate.
Even her social media told the story. Once a vibrant feed of promotional posts and glamorous selfies, Rachel's Instagram fell silent. No new posts, no new stories, just one cryptic black screen. Posted, then deleted, hinting at a deeper struggle behind the scenes. Fans noticed, some were concerned, others mocked her silence. But one thing was clear, Rachel Zegler, once Hollywood's golden girl, had been erased. Reports began trickling out from insiders. Friends said Rachel wasn't responding to messages, she wasn't leaving her house. She was, by all accounts, devastated, numb, isolated. And the industry, it moved on without her. Steven Spielberg, the man who discovered her, said nothing. Disney executives stayed silent. Not a single co-star, director, or producer stepped forward to defend her.
It's the most emotional experience that a person can go through to know that what they're working on is something that has reached a generation of people. And now I'm a part of that legacy to some degree, and it's not something I take lightly, and it's just the most emotional experience.
In Hollywood, silence isn't just silence, it's an execution. Behind the scenes, the whispers grew louder. Casting agents reportedly called her radioactive. Producers warned against hiring her. Talent reps told their clients to avoid any association. Hollywood isn't kind, it's calculating. And Rachel was no longer a rising star. She was a risk. And no studio, no director, no brand wants to bet on a risk. Privately, Disney began discussing rebooting Snow White again. This time with a clean slate, a safer choice, someone who wouldn't torch the legacy they were trying to modernize. Rachel Zegler wasn't just removed from Snow White, she was removed from Hollywood's future. And the scariest part? No one even blinked. But Rachel's collapse wasn't just professional, it was deeply personal.
I'm so sorry. Thank you, Rachel. Hey, you on the way out?
The same internet that mocked her began to notice the shift. No more public appearances, no interviews, no selfies, just a void. Rumors surfaced. She wasn't eating, she wasn't sleeping. Her family was worried, friends couldn't reach her. And then came the breaking point. A cryptic post on Instagram, a black screen, no caption, no explanation. It disappeared within hours, but not before fans saved it, dissected it, debated it. Was it a cry for help? A goodbye? A calculated PR move? No one knew. But it didn't matter. The damage was done. Reddit threads popped up. Have we gone too far with Rachel Zegler? Influencers who once piled on the criticism began walking it back, reminding their audiences that public humiliation on a global scale has real consequences. Mental health advocates chimed in, warning about the dangers of relentless online hate, about the toll it can take on someone's psyche. But Hollywood didn't care. Producers had already moved on. Casting agents filled her roles with new faces. Directors started fresh. Even Disney, the company that once celebrated Rachel as their future, quietly erased her from history. No farewell tour, no redemption arc, just silence. Because in Hollywood, you're only as valuable as your last headline. And Rachel's last headlines were poison. Today, Rachel Zegler isn't trending for a new role. She's not walking red carpets, she's not accepting awards, she's not giving interviews, she's just gone. The girl who was once the industry's golden child has become its ghost. And maybe that's the real tragedy here. Not the canceled movie, not the lost sponsorships, not the memes or the mockery, but the slow public erasure of a person who once had the world in her hands and watched it slip away, not with a bang, but with a whisper. Where Rachel goes from here is anyone's guess. Maybe she disappears forever, another cautionary tale filed away in Hollywood's endless vault of forgotten stars. Maybe she fights her way back, rebrands, reinvents, reclaims her place. Or maybe she does what Hollywood taught her best. She goes silent. Because sometimes, in this industry, the loudest thing you can do is say absolutely nothing.